I'm Kevin Shaw, and you're watching the Watercraft Journal. So I guess the main question we have to ask is, where have I been? This year has been rather interesting for myself personally, for the Watercraft Journal, both the magazine and the YouTube channel. And I thought at the end of this year, a few weeks before Christmas, that I would go over a little bit of what happened this year, a little bit about where I am personally, and what the future of this YouTube channel and the magazine holds. It's currently 38, 39 degrees here in Hendersonville, Tennessee. It is very clearly winter. All the leaves have not only just changed, but have all fallen down, and my front yard needs a lot of raking. A lot of you who've been longtime subscribers to this YouTube channel and to the Watercraft Journal itself at www.watercraftjournal.com have probably seen some changes, a little bit of throttling down for 2025, and even a little bit before in 2024. The question is, am I quitting? What's happening? Is the magazine shutting down? What's going on with the world's biggest PWC enthusiast magazine and YouTube channel? My answer to that is I don't really know. It really all depends on you. See, my journey with personal watercraft started back when I was 8 years old, when my father started a jet ski rental business in Southern California. I was originally introduced to the JS 450 and 550 stand-up jet skis, and that's really how I cut my teeth back in the late 80s. My interest in personal watercraft with jet skis remained primarily around stand-ups throughout the 1990s, although by that time I'd gotten my driver's license and my heart really was into old cars, classic cars, and burning tires and just being a regular hooligan out on the streets. But it wasn't until the late 1990s when I jumped on a 1997 Yamaha GP 1200 and did my first Long Beach to Catalina run. In those years, long before four-strokes came about, you had to leave out of Queensgate and race all the way to Avalon Beach, where you would meet your team at the beach there on the island. They would refuel you, and then you'd race back. The nature of those watercraft being so much smaller and lighter meant that you were really a subject out on the surface of the water. It required a lot of athleticism, a lot of ability to maintain balance, a lot of ability to be able to read and track the water, and simply took a lot of skill to be very good at it. Although I don't dare say that I was any good at it, I will say that I really loved the challenge of it, and that's what drew me into personal watercraft in a bigger way. In 2007, I was hired to be the editor of Personal Watercraft Illustrated, the last remaining of the original personal watercraft enthusiast magazines like Splash and Watercraft World. PWI was the longest lasting, ending its time from 1987 to January 1st of 2010. Unfortunately, I hold the onus of being the last editor of that magazine. Thankfully, it was only a couple years later that I moved the family out to Tennessee and we started the Watercraft Journal. This new digital format allowed people like you to be able to access all the same awesome content that they were getting at PWI, but on their phone or on their desktop computer. Additionally, by the mid-2010s, we started producing video on the regular. Although our digital magazine really was our bread and butter and really what was keeping the lights on effectively at this company, we started seeing more and more people gravitating towards the YouTube channel. The YouTube channel now has close to 36,000 subscribers and many more followers, and still continues to this day to generate a lot of interest, a lot of engagement, a lot of comments from you guys, a lot of questions, and just seems to have a life of its own. The problem was that the Watercraft Journal magazine versus the Watercraft Journal YouTube channel seemed to have a bit of a divergence. We saw different audiences, we saw different interests in content, and frankly it was just hard to control two different watercraft journals when they really were supposed to be paired together. In addition to doing our personal watercraft reviews and adventure rides and different location videos, I also started taking so many questions that I started creating what were effectively the original podcasts. These podcasts weren't necessarily what they are today, but rather were more of a tutorial lesson, more of a technical outlay. A lot of you guys who've been around for a while will remember the white erase boards, and we would talk about things like cavitation and hull design, things that were a little bit more deep dive, a little bit more technical, things that gave people who normally wouldn't have this kind of knowledge a little greater insight as to the design of personal watercraft. Unfortunately, as time went on, preparing those type of lessons became a lot of work. And moreover, it became easier to sit down with friends and just shoot the bull. We thought it was a little bit more conversational. We thought, quite frankly, it was a little bit more casual. And it was just, frankly, a lot of fun to have guys like Greg Gaddis and Billy Duplessis sit in and just chew the fat and sit around and have a good time in a conversation like you would with your buddies normally. That format became pretty much the regular for the podcast and became, for the last couple of years, the sole content of the YouTube channel. So to say that we experienced some mission creep is a little bit of an understatement. We went from being strictly personal watercraft reviews on the YouTube channel to adding adventure rides, to adding location rides, to then becoming a tutorial, lesson-based channel, and then effectively rolling into a conversational podcast like you would see on Joe Rogan. In the middle of watching the YouTube channel kind of evolve into its own creature, I did pay attention to the fact that we were losing a lot of the younger audience who were the eager enthusiasts who wanted to get interested and involved in personal watercraft, and we started gravitating towards more an older demographic and, quite frankly, reflecting the buying demographic of these new personal watercraft. Now, on paper, this is a positive indicator that we are correctively reflecting who the audience is for the whole industry. By looking at the Watercraft Journal's viewership and readership, we got to see a very good reflection, almost one-to-one, of who was going to the dealerships and who was buying new personal watercraft. That made us incredibly valuable to the OEs and to dealerships. Now, this is all well and good and it sounds great for the business, but in reality, we started to see something that was really very toxic happening. And that was reflected in a lot of the comments and interactions that we were seeing on the YouTube channel, as well as the decline in readership on the magazine. Personally, I was experiencing a flood of negative comments, a flood of very vitriolic comments, things that were crossing a certain line. I started having people make death threats towards my children and towards my wife, wishing ill upon my family, and this was all because I gave a review that wasn't glowing about a watercraft that they liked. They were mad that I liked a Yamaha when they were a Sea-Doo person, or they were mad that I was negative towards the Kawasaki when I was riding a Sea-Doo. Whatever the reason was, we started seeing that kind of interaction on the YouTube channel, and when I get a flood of people saying incredibly negative things about what I'm doing and laughing at the idea of my children being killed in traffic accidents, it makes me not want to work there anymore. And that's really where I was at the beginning of about 2 years ago. By 2024, I was pretty much ready to pull the plug on all of this. I didn't need the negative interactions. I didn't need the arguing. There was a little too much drama happening within the industry, and quite frankly, I was ready to check out. For me personally, I had kind of reached a sense of satisfaction with what I had achieved with the Watercraft Journal and being able to build something from nothing and to quickly become the world leader. I was pretty content with that. And I was ready to move on and experience other things in my life. Now, I know that's really unfair to a lot of you guys who sincerely appreciate what we produce here at the Watercraft Journal, and I thank you for being fans, and I thank you for being polite and being complimentive. That means a lot to me. I've gotten a lot of emails and a lot of notices from you guys really thanking me and my team for everything that we've done here over the last 13 years, and I want to thank you for that. It does mean the world to me. But simultaneously, we have to take into effect that machines that are being built and sold today simply don't reflect the machines that initially got me interested in this sport 35 years ago. Now, trust me, I know I might sound like a broken record on a few of these topics, and I apologize if it just rubs you the wrong way, but frankly, this is my channel, and these are my thoughts, and this is how I feel. I don't know what to tell you. And I'm just gonna say it, I don't like what's coming out today. I don't like that the machines that are coming out today do not require any athleticism from the rider. I don't like that the machines today are far too comfortable, that they are too fat, they're too heavy, they're too wide, they're too long. They're effectively becoming so comfortable that it does not require the rider to be half as attentive, if not a quarter as attentive, as we used to years ago. An unattentive rider is a dangerous rider, and a lot of manufacturers are paying the cost for this when it comes to lawsuits and accidents and repairs and service recalls. Half of those service recalls and half of those repairs would be alleviated if the manufacturers actually built a watercraft that didn't have so many distractions on it. The problem is, riders are too easily distracted. They're playing with their music, they're engaging their phone, they're scrolling through the dashboard, and they're not paying attention. So where do we go from here? Unfortunately, this video was not meant to be any sort of treatise on the nature of the industry or the health of the industry or where things are going. This is really supposed to be about where the future of the Watercraft Journal is. And that is, frankly, in a radical change. I feel it's important that I step back and not make it so conversational, maybe dial back the podcast and get back to the original roots and the original purpose of the Watercraft Journal. Because ultimately, I want this channel to be useful. It doesn't have to be entertaining, it can be dry as can be, but I want to be able to inform and equip you guys with the information that you need to have a safe and enjoyable time out on the water with your family. Additionally, I'm going to put my money where my mouth is. There's a few things that I'm working on for 2026. They've been really slow cooking over the year. In fact, one deal is still taking about a 2-year time period just to get finalized. But for a lot of you guys who are liking what I'm saying about the old school stuff, you're gonna like what you're gonna see in the future. I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little bit more excited for that stuff, but I promise to give it my all, whether it's a solid personal watercraft review, whether it's a shop tour, whether it's a technical tutorial. I promise not to cut any corners. We're gonna do it right. Now, one more thing before I say goodbye, and that is that there is no Watercraft of the Year award going out this year for 2025. And that's for one specific reason, and one reason only, and that is, quite frankly, we didn't review a single 2025 model this year. Because we didn't get our hands on any 2025 models, it felt completely disingenuous for us to basically lie to you and say, oh, we rode this new unit, or we got our hands on this new unit, or I can project and maybe think this new unit would be really great. This is the one we're going to award as the 2025 Watercraft of the Year. That's not my style. I'm not going to lie to you. It's not worth lying to people and sacrificing my integrity and the integrity of my team here at Watercraft Journal and project something that we don't do. But for now, suffice it to say that the Watercraft Journal is going to continue. That this YouTube channel is going to return back to its original mission, and that was to be an appendage to the magazine at www.watercraftjournal.com. Articles will be tied to video and video tied to articles. You're going to see a pairing between the two so that you're going to want to visit both the magazine and the YouTube channel. This is where we feel we can be the most effective. This is where we feel we can be the most useful to you. And that's ultimately the goal of this publication. So guys, I want to thank you for sitting through a little bit of our history and a little bit of what our future is looking like for 2026, where I am personally, and hopefully it reflects a little bit of where you are, and together we can enjoy these machines out on the water. We can push ourselves and our machines together and really come to enjoy this sport for the way it was originally designed to be. I'm Kevin Shaw, and you've been watching the Watercraft Journal. If you enjoyed this video, why don't you leave a like, maybe leave a comment, and more importantly, share it with your friends. It'll definitely help us grow the channel. And if you want more awesome Watercraft content, visit us over at www.watercraftjournal.com, where new articles are written and published every single day, Monday through Friday, entirely subscription free to you. Until the next video, we'll see you at the magazine.